Okay, who am I? I'm Brian Wilson Jr. from the Oneida Nation. Sekuluya Dunyo Yungyatungwe Wene Nawagitaloda. From the Oneida Nation, I'm Turtle Clan. I grew up 10 houses down from right here where we're at right now. And I'm from the city of Fort Atkinson. I grew up here in Fort, played football here in Fort Atkinson. And then I got my bachelor's degree right down the road over here in UW-Whitewater. I got my master's degree at the University of Minnesota Duluth. And then I finished all the coursework for a Doctorate of Education also at the University of Minnesota Duluth. I'm not doing negativity. So anything that has to do with a bad attitude, negativity, moping and doping, dragging your feet around, any of those kind of things, or someone who isn't actually working towards a goal in their life or have any kind of favorable, honesty about themselves or anything like that, I'm not doing that. So I have a really, really small circle, and I only surround myself with people that are goal-oriented, have a future in mind, are working towards something, and they have it written down. It's really important. If you're going to go anywhere, and if you guys notice up in my place right there, I got a whiteboard, and it's all laid out. It says 2024 and beyond. So everything that I'm doing, and it's a changing board, that's why it's a whiteboard. So I write down all the time, what am I doing? Okay, I'm the owner of 7 Generations Contractors. We've been in business 3 years. We went from working just me by myself, now I have 5 full-time employees. We went from making thousands to we're gonna do over $1 million this year in 2025. So it jumped up really fast. We're a minority business enterprise, we're a disadvantaged business enterprise. We do commercial, residential. McDonald's is my biggest customer. We did some military contracts last year, and that was a really big deal. To land that kind of work, you have to be set up right as a business. Now, I didn't go to school for business, but I learned business outside of my bachelor's degree in social work, my master's degree in social work, and a doctorate of education with an emphasis of teaching and learning. I learned how to do business, and what it was when I was growing up, I was always involved in concrete and construction. And I thought, man, these guys are working so hard, and I was working hard, but it was easy to me because I had the energy level for it, and it didn't bother me to work all day, every single day, and do this hard work. But then I thought to myself, well, you know what? I had this opportunity to go to college. I'm gonna try to get a bachelor's degree to get away from this lifestyle, okay? So I went and got a bachelor's degree in social work, and then after that, I was like, man, I found brains that I didn't even know I had. So then I was like, maybe I should get a master's degree. Just keep it going. So I went right from my bachelor's degree into a master's degree, and then I went out into the world and worked in child protection and child therapy and that kind of stuff and foster care, and it turned my hair gray. So these are actual real gray hairs, and so then I thought, okay, you know what? Let's go back and work on a doctorate. So I went back to school to work on a Doctorate of Education, and it was a 4-year program, and I finished 2 years, and then I got hit by a drunk driver, and then I didn't work for a couple years, and then I decided, you know what, man? I really, the best time of my life was when I was working concrete and construction. It was like the best thing for me. Always fun in the sun, if you ask me, and it was always summertime when I was doing concrete. So I went back and became a safety director at another company, and I did that for 8 years. And then all the success that they were having, and I mean making millions of dollars, I thought I could do that. So then I turned, gave them my 2-week notice after 8 years, started my own business, got all the same certifications that the companies that are making tens of millions of dollars have. And then now in my 3rd year, it's to the roof. And now that we're bonded with the city of Madison, we're bonded with the city of West Allis, I got a concrete stamp to do that kind of work. And it's really ramped up. And a lot of hard work went into that, working until sometimes 10, 11 o'clock at night, not only in the field, but in my office too, doing estimates. And when you're working on this level, you have to have the right insurance. You have to have an attorney. You have to have a CPA. You have to have a regular unemployment compensation. You have to be like a real life corporation, and that's what I set myself up to be. And there was a lot of mistakes that I made along the way, especially when it came to how to be a business and how do you bid your jobs properly to make money. And so I learned a lot of hard lessons in my first year and a half or so, and then I turned the tide, and then the last year and a half, maybe even a little bit like 2 years, has been a smashing success. new trucks, new equipment. I utilized my heritage to get to help me forward my business. I utilized the opportunities that came through, like the Ho Chunk tribe and Develop Wisconsin with Damon Dorsey, and my tribe owns Bay Bank of the Oneidas of Green Bay. So I utilized some of their contractor programs and their loan programs to help boost my company. And when it came to the finances, the business was generating so much money so fast. And when it's trackable check income, you can borrow against that income if you need new equipment and things like that. Well, I had the opportunity to get grants for my business. I did one of those like Shark Tank kind of scenarios at the Indigenous Business Group conference. My girlfriend Apache Danforth, who owns Good Words Consulting, helped me put together a pitch. And with that pitch, I won first place at that conference, and I got a $5,000 grant. And as I was coming off the stage with my grant and my plaque, a gentleman approached me. His name is Damon Dorsey, and he's the owner of Develop Wisconsin, which is part of Develop America. And they're helping people bounce back, or small businesses bounce back from the COVID. So with the COVID relief funds, I applied. He gave me a grant for $15,000. So in that night, I had won $20,000. And I took that $20,000 and I bought wall forms to do foundations for concrete. And with that money and those forms helped me change my business and grew 10 times faster. And then most recently, now that I'm into about 3.5 years of business, I got another grant. I applied for a $50,000 grant and with Damon Dorsey again with Develop Wisconsin, and I got, out of that $50,000 I applied for, I got a $20,000 grant. I took that and I bought a piece of equipment that's like a concrete rider that's hydrostatic, so it's like power steering for this riding machine. And I used it just last week to do a pole barn floor. And we already have a rider, but now we have more equipment. And with the new hires that I have, we're doing more square footage of finished concrete floor. And we have really nice equipment. And here's an example. So today, we're pouring a driveway right over here in Fort Atkinson, and I got my dump truck there, I got my skid steer there, I got my 2 other work trucks there, I got my employees, we're all there, we're all working, I got my nice yard signs out in the yard. A guy pulls up and he says, hey, he goes, I need an estimate for my sidewalk. And I said, okay, yeah, I can do that. He goes, and I'm gonna tell you, the only reason that I stopped was because you guys look very professional. I can see you have really nice equipment, so I figured you guys must be doing really good work. So I said, okay. We poured that driveway, and then I went around the corner and I did his estimate. And after we poured that driveway, we went and set up that sidewalk, and we're gonna pour it tomorrow. And while we were setting up that sidewalk, the guy who owns the apartment building next door came out and said, hey, I need you to replace all these squares of concrete. I need 2 steps here and there, and can I use that extra dirt on my property? Absolutely. So we ended up getting a significant amount of work in a very short amount of time. And also what happened was the guy across the street from the driveway, he said, hey, I need an estimate too. So I measured his driveway up right there, gave him his estimate, and then his friend pulls up in one of those buggies that you can drive downtown, took me across town to his house, and I gave him an estimate. So when you do good work and you stay around positive people that are really focused on what they're doing, you know, things in your life can change dramatically. And I really believe that the physical world is a result of your internal world. Whatever you're thinking is what's gonna happen out here. Every day in my life, I stand in front of the mirror and I give myself positive affirmations, and I also write them down on my whiteboard. So what I'm doing is I'm programming every cell in my body for that success. Nothing is gonna stop me. I'm only one way, I'm only moving forward. And whenever I'm doing things, I only think, it's only now. We only have this one moment right now. How is that gonna be for you? So I really gear myself up for success, and I always think positively no matter what. And going backwards in time, it wasn't always like that. When I was growing up, I got myself in a lot of trouble. I was in jail and I was in prison and I was on drugs and alcohol. And then I cleaned myself up, changed my entire vibration, because I was down here with a low vibration. And after I changed my vibration, I changed my mindset, I changed my whole life. You see my Mercedes S63 sitting right there. I just bought this house, I have a business, all these things, and 5 employees. And imagine that you're paying your employees over $50 an hour, and there's 5 of them. And we've been busy nonstop for 2 years back to back. When I first started, I was by myself, and then after that first year, I started gaining employees. The jobs got bigger, the paychecks got bigger, the responsibilities became much greater. And with all this success, it's really difficult to manage because you as a person have to be ready for that kind of success. A lot of people have triggers. When you get money, how are you going to act? When you're getting $100,000, $200,000 a month, how is that going to affect you? And so you have to have that strong constitution and put that money in the right place and not have it affect you in a negative way. So I use my heritage and culture to keep me grounded. And I'm Oneida, so that means I'm Iroquois. My grandfather was a full-blooded Odawa, and my grandmother was full-blooded Oneida. So I use my culture and my heritage and my drum circle and the ceremonies to keep me grounded. And so over the last 5 years, really utilizing my culture and heritage and my family and my friends, and it's a really, really small circle, I managed to change my entire life. I went from being, basically destitute because I was always on drugs. I was always spending my money on drugs. And now, being clean and sober and with a business and all this responsibility, I have more happiness than I've ever had in my entire life. I'm really comfortable in what I'm doing. I have very low stress. And, I try to spread my happiness and joy through everything that I do by sponsoring community events. Like for one example, one of the biggest events that I sponsor is the International Boxing Association. And that is a blast. And we go to all the casinos in the state of Wisconsin and we host boxing matches. And it's a great opportunity for the Indigenous community to come out and show their skills and showcase their businesses too through other sponsorships. And I'm also a partner in a restaurant, which is in Green Bay, Wisconsin. And I live here in Fort Atkinson, but on the weekends I go up there to the reservation in Green Bay in Oneida. And we have a team of folk up there that are running our other partners that are running the business, and it's going great. We've been open for 5 weeks, and it's called Off the Trail. So if anybody's got some time to go to Facebook, look up Off the Trail, or you go to the corner of Wabi and Packerland in Green Bay there and get you a meal. And I really like to share, I do a lot of sponsorships when it comes to the high school football teams, girls softball, bowling, lacrosse, golf outings, pretty much anything you can name. It's going to say 7 Generation Contractors on the flyer. And I'm really proud of that I'm able to share my success with others that way. Yeah, we live in a real dense universe right now, okay? Earth is a school. And Dolores Cannon, if you ever watch any of her work on YouTube, okay, she talks about how we're here to learn our lessons. We're here on this planet, we incarnated in this time to learn lessons, okay? And I learned a lot of hard lessons, man, by being involved in street stuff and gangs and drugs and alcohol. I learned a lot of lessons and it ended up me in prison. And so having that, your life taken away from you and being in prison, man, when you get to the other side of the fence and you finally make it out, you run as hard as you can, as fast as you can to be successful in whatever it is that you're doing. So every day when I get up, it's not hard for me to jump out of bed because I know what it's like when they were saying, hey man, we're going to give you 30 years for this in Illinois. And they were trying to give me 80 years in Wisconsin for something that I did. And when I got, 4 years and concurrent, I went to prison in Illinois and I got out, I went right to college. And I had changed my entire life at that point. And so it's not hard for me to get out here and do all this hard work. In fact, the more I move, the more energy I get. And the more I accomplish a goal, it just drives me to do another goal. Because I know that life is short and you could be snatched out of this reality at any single time. You could be riding down the street and get T-boned by another car and it's over. I got hit by a drunk driver, almost killed me. I didn't work for 2 years. So I know what the value of your life, okay? I want to say it like that. And your life is what you're going to make it. And so I want to make my life happy and healthy, and I want to spread my happiness and my success with as many people as I can. And I want to leave an imprint for the next 7 generations. And that's why I named my company 7 Generation Contractors, because as an Oneida member, we have to think 7 generations ahead. And so that's what I'm doing by being the first person in my family to get a bachelor's degree, get a master's degree, finish the coursework for a doctorate of education, own a business. Well, my mom owned a business, but have a construction business that my nephews have been involved in, and I'm able to share my life through my construction company to others, like in the international boxing scene. And I utilize Good Words Travel, and I use Good Word Consulting to help me along there. And so I utilize other Indigenous businesses to help me on my path too. And I'm just grateful to be able to do that, I think everything is like meant to be, okay? So I do a lot of vintage shopping and stuff. And so one day I found a door knocker. It was brass. And then I found a brass shell, okay? It would be like a soap holder. And this was at like some vintage market somewhere, okay? So I bought them. And I was making a change in my life from what I was doing, and I needed a place to live. And so I found this place that we're at right now, and it's a duplex, and I've been here for over 3 years, and my business leases the whole place, okay? Well, whatever it was about this place, when I came to the front door, the knocker that I bought was on the door. And when I went up into the bathroom, it was kind of weird, but right next to the sink, it looked like there was 2 screw holes where they had taken that soap dish off. And I literally felt like, hey man, I'm home, like this is my house. So I don't have a TV, I just got the internet to help me run my business, but I'm so focused on what I'm doing, I don't have time for Netflix and watching TV and doing that kind of stuff. You'll see a pile of books up there. You'll see all that art. I'm surrounded by art, and mostly Indigenous artists. I surround myself with the things that make me happy. And I believe that if you're watching TV, you're gonna get those subliminal messages that they put through, man, on those low tones and them vibrations in them TVs that will make you sad. It will make you upset. It imprints, and that's why they call it TV programming. It's gonna program your mind. I don't wanna be affected by any of that stuff. And so I set out and I said, you know what, I don't need any of that stuff. I can run my business off my phone. I just use the hotspot when I need it. And it was a smashing success. I don't know how else to say it. I am so focused on what I'm doing that's all that I do. I do my business, I share my life. I create another business, and I had to go through all this negativity to get to the point where I am right now because I made a lot of mistakes, so I know what not to do. Now I know what to do. I know how to gain the knowledge. You go get the book, you read all about it. You ask other people, you get mentors, you get involved with the people that are doing the same thing, and you will be what you surround yourself with. So whoever you're surrounding yourself with, that's who you are. I surround myself with people that have a positive attitude, that are goal-oriented, that are going somewhere, that are entrepreneurs, and that have a successful vision in their life. So thinking ahead 10 years, if I've doubled my business actually the first 2 years it doubled, and then it quadrupled last year, okay? So on the trend, it's going quadruples. Everything is going by 4 times. So I know that right now, because I have 2 businesses, I'm already searching my 3rd business, okay? We have the concrete and construction business, we have a restaurant, and then we're gonna move it. When I say we, it's because no one ever does anything by themselves, right? My ancestors, they're pushing me forward. My business partners are pushing me forward. So the next thing is, there's gonna be a laundromat. After the laundromat comes the apartment buildings. Now with those apartment buildings, I have the construction company that could build those. We do footings, walls, parking lots, you name it, sidewalks, we do all that. We have excavators. So we're doing that. The next big thing is, we're gonna be doing bigger commercial projects. For example, we just went on a job site tour down at the Ho Chunk Casino for the Ho Chunk Casino Beloit. We just did a job site tour, and we're gonna bid 3 of the buildings that are on that project. And that's a big deal. There's gonna be more military projects, more McDonald's contracts. There's gonna be at least 1 more duplex. And at the end of 10 years, the way it's going, I would say I would be in the $25 to $30 million a year zone. And with that, I still would be out there working concrete every day. So I'm 43. The goal is to be done with the concrete in the field at 55. And so right now, with the 4 other guys that we have working in the field, I'm stepping out of the field a little bit more and doing more of, hey, now I don't have to be in the office until 10, 11 o'clock at night. I can go off and do the estimates and get this stuff taken care of during the day. But it's insane how fast it went, how much we grew in such a short amount of time by being absolutely focused on what I'm doing. There's no TV, there's no drinking, there's no going out. I go out and eat a lot of Mexican food, yes I do, but that's like the one thing that I do. I like to eat a lot of Mexican food. But other than that, I'm so focused. There's gonna be, in 10 years from now, I love Mercedes, okay? I'm about to get another one. I'm gonna get another one this year, and I'm already shopping for that one. So I would say there'll probably be maybe a Lamborghini in there somewhere. But definitely there's gonna be a garage right behind me this year. Those trees, don't tell them, but I'm gonna cut them down. And my kids, I have 4 daughters and they're all grown up already, and they're out in the world, and I'm just trying to build something that I can leave for them and their kids, and hopefully to do more public speaking on inspiration to other entrepreneurs. And they could ask me anything about how I did it, and I'll be glad to answer those questions. Knowing what I know now, okay, so I'm reaching back and I'm gonna tell somebody else. Your external life out here is a result of what happens in here. Whatever you're thinking is what's gonna happen out here. It's never gonna work. All I wanna do is get high. Then that's what you're gonna be doing. But if you think positive, man, I love my life. Man, I'm gonna be wealthy. I'm gonna have a business. I'm gonna have this. I'm gonna do that. And you write it down and you make goals, you're gonna get there. And it's not impossible to do. I would say think positive 100% of the time. Write down your goals and get rid of all the distractions and move towards those goals, and you'll get there.
Cool.